Glass shatters. Gunfire rips through Seattle's most powerful tech tower. Ethan Cole, a single dad working night security, has 60 seconds to decide: run home to his 7-year-old daughter or save 200 strangers trapped inside. He chooses strangers. Big mistake. Because the woman he pulls from the smoke Novatech's CEO, Claire Morgan, is the real target. And the man who wants her dead, someone she calls family. Hit subscribe right now. You'll want to see how this ends. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. The man Claire Morgan trusted most was trying to kill her, and Ethan Cole had about 90 seconds to figure that out. The loading dock alarm died mid-shriek. Not cut. Not disabled. Just stopped like someone knew exactly which wire to pull. Ethan froze, grease-covered wrench in hand, and felt his gut twist the way it had in Kandahar 3 seconds before the IED detonated under his convoy. That silence before everything goes to hell. His radio hissed static, then nothing. 7 years of single fatherhood had taught him to recognize that sound. Same silence before Lily tumbled off the monkey bars. Before she ran into traffic chasing a balloon. That half-breath before disaster when you realize you should have been watching closer. Ethan dropped the wrench and ran. The service elevator took forever. 30 floors in 30 seconds, but his mind was already 3 steps ahead. Lily would be asleep at Mrs. Chen's by now. Safe. Dreaming about those watercolors he'd promised when his $12 an hour paycheck cleared. The good kind. $23 he didn't have. The doors opened to screaming. People in evening gowns and tuxedos stampeding past like a panicked herd. A woman fell, champagne glass shattering. Ethan caught her arm, but she yanked away and kept running. Through the glass partition, he saw 5 men in tactical gear moving through Novatech's charity gala with military precision. Not robbers, soldiers. One studied a tablet directing the others toward executive elevators. Another zip-tied a guard to a pillar. The third systematically destroyed every camera. Ethan's body remembered before his brain caught up. Stay low. Assess. Move. He ducked behind a marble column. In the main ballroom, 200 people knelt with hands on heads while gunmen circled like sharks. Then a voice cut through the chaos, calm, controlled, and absolutely furious. "You hurt my employees, you get nothing." Claire Morgan stood in the center of the hostages, still wearing that emerald dress from this morning's newspaper. 32 years old, built a failing defense contractor into a medical tech empire, and apparently insane enough to negotiate with armed men. "You the CEO." The leader stomped toward her. "Perfect. You're coming with us." "No." She didn't move. "Let these people go first." "Lady, you don't give orders here." "Actually, I do." Claire's voice stayed level. "You came for financial data, not murder. Killing civilians makes this federal with mandatory life sentences. Right now, you're looking at robbery, maybe 10 years. Do the math." Ethan felt something shift in his chest. This woman wasn't just refusing to be a victim, she was profiling her attackers, calculating odds, playing chess, while everyone else drowned in panic. He'd seen that kind of courage once. A field hospital in Helmand. His wife, 7 months pregnant, working through a mortar attack because stopping meant soldiers died. She'd saved 4 men that day before shrapnel tore through the tent. The leader grabbed Claire's arm. She didn't flinch. "Tough girl, fine. Let's go." He dragged her toward the executive elevators. 2 gunmen stayed behind with the hostages. 3 others followed their leader and Claire. Ethan had maybe 10 seconds before those doors closed. He moved like smoke through the chaos, low fast, using columns and debris as cover. Service corridor ran parallel to the executive wing. He knew every pipe and duct in this building because knowing terrain was the difference between going home and going home in a box. He hit the stairwell at a sprint. 1 floor. 2. His lungs screamed. When was the last time he'd run like this before Lily? Before his wife died. Before he became a single dad who microwaved dinosaur-shaped nuggets and read stories about talking rabbits. 3rd floor. He burst through the fire door just as the executive elevator chimed. The hallway here was expensive. Real hardwood abstract art, worth more than Ethan would earn in 10 years. The elevator opened. Leader first weapon up, scanning for threats. Then Claire hands zip-tied, face calm, but eyes calculating. 3 gunmen flanking her like Secret Service. Ethan pressed into a doorway alcove, barely breathing. Server room's this way. The leader shoved Claire forward. Try anything cute, I start shooting. Clear? Crystal. They moved past close enough that Ethan smelled gunpowder residue, heard Claire's heels clicking on hardwood. He counted to 3, then followed. The hallway opened to Novatech's executive suite, glass walls, modern art, expensive emptiness. The server room stood at the far end behind a reinforced steel door with a glowing biometric panel. Open it. Claire placed her palm on the scanner. Blue light swept once, twice. Flashed red. Access denied. What the hell? After hours requires 2 executives. Security protocol. Her voice stayed flat. I need my CFO or CTO. Both downstairs. Then we have a problem. The leader's hand went to her throat. No, you have a problem. Open that door. Can't. Kill me or get another executive. Your choice. 3 seconds of perfect silence. Ethan watched the leader's finger tighten on his weapon. Watched Claire's jaw set in defiance. Watched everything about to tip into violence. He stepped into the hallway. Or you could leave. 5 weapons swung toward him. Ethan raised empty hands, just a maintenance guy with oil stains on his shirt and 0 threat profile. Who the hell are you? Building maintenance. Look, I don't want trouble, but the cops are coming. Silent alarm triggered when you cut the power. You've got maybe 2 minutes before this place is surrounded. Complete lie. Ethan had no idea if any alarm had triggered, but he said it with the tired confidence of a man who'd bluffed past insurgent checkpoints by acting too exhausted to care. The leader laughed. Nice try. We disabled every system. You disabled the ones you knew about. This building's got 3 protocols. You killed 2. The 3rd's hardwired to fire suppression, can't be hacked, can't be cut. It went active when your guys smashed those cameras because the system read it as structural damage. Another lie. But Ethan watched their body language shift, saw doubt creeping in. Even if that's true, you're not walking out. Don't need to. Just need you to be smart. Ethan pointed at Claire. Take her. Use her as leverage past the police perimeter. Leave everyone else unharmed. You get away clean, negotiate her release from distance, nobody dies. Kidnapping beats mass murder for sentencing. Claire's eyes widened. What are you, saving your employees? Ethan met her gaze. Isn't that what you wanted? I didn't want... You bought them 5 minutes. I'm buying them the rest of their lives. Take the deal. The leader studied Ethan like a cobra watching prey, then smiled. Smart man. Okay. We take the CEO leave through parking garage, everyone else stays. You follow, she dies. You call cops, she dies. You do anything except go back to fixing toilets, she dies. Got it. Got it. Good. He grabbed Claire's arm. Move. They hustled her toward the stairwell. Claire looked back, once expression unreadable, before the door slammed shut. Ethan waited until footsteps faded, then ran. Not to help the hostages, not back to the lobby. He ran to the service elevator, pulled out his phone, while the car dropped, fingers shaking as he dialed. Mrs. Chen answered immediately. Ethan? What's wrong? Is Lily asleep? Yes, an hour ago. Why do you sound... I'm fine. Emergency maintenance. Can you keep her till morning? Of course, but... Thank you. He hung up before she could ask questions. The elevator opened to the basement. Ethan moved to the main electrical panel and flipped 3 switches in sequence. Every light in Novatech died. Then he used the manual bypass to restore power to specific systems. One elevator, one camera network, parking garage gate controls. He'd just locked 4 armed men and 1 hostage CEO in a building only he knew how to navigate. Now came the hard part. Sub-level 2 connected to a maintenance tunnel from 1987 before this building was a tech empire. Most people didn't know it existed. Security had painted over the access door years ago. Ethan had fixed a leak down here last winter. He remembered. The tunnel was narrow and dank pipes dripping condensation. Ethan moved fast, trailing his hand along the wall in darkness. 42 paces, then left. 18 more, then right. The tunnel twisted like intestines, but ran under the entire complex with 3 exits: parking garage, loading dock, emergency alley door. The gunmen would try the parking garage. Take Claire to a pre-positioned vehicle. They'd watch for police for security for any obvious threat. They wouldn't watch for one maintenance worker coming from below. Ethan reached the garage access, a rusted grate in the tunnel ceiling. He pushed it open slowly until he could see the garage floor above. Rows of empty cars, red emergency lighting. And there near the exit ramp, 4 gunmen clustered around a black van with Claire between them. Gate won't open. One yanked the manual release. Whole system's locked. Override it, the leader snapped. I'm trying, everything's fried. Then blow it. Are you insane? That'll bring every cop in Seattle. They were panicking. Good. Panicked people made mistakes. Ethan pulled himself up through the grate, silently using parked cars for cover. 15 feet. 10. 5. Close enough to hear Claire breathing, see the zip tie cutting her wrists. Close enough to hear her whisper, "Behind you." 3 o'clock. The leader spun. Found Ethan crouched behind a Toyota. Their eyes met. Ethan smiled. Looking for this? He held up a parking garage master control fob stolen from the security office 3 minutes ago. Opens the gate. All yours. You're helping us. I'm helping her. Ethan nodded toward Claire. You let her go. I open the gate. Simple. Why? Because I'm tired of watching people hurt each other over things that won't matter 5 minutes after they're dead. True words. And she doesn't deserve whatever you've got planned. The leader considered, then laughed. You know what, I believe you. You really are just some maintenance guy trying to be a hero. He raised his weapon. Too bad. Claire moved. She'd been coiling like a spring, Ethan realized later. Waiting for this exact moment when the leader was distracted, his grip loose, his focus elsewhere. She twisted, drove her elbow into his ribs with the precision of someone who'd taken self-defense classes at her father's insistence after he died, and dropped as his weapon discharged wildly. The shot punched through a water pipe that sprayed everyone. Chaos exploded. Ethan tackled the nearest gunman into a concrete pillar. They went down hard, wrestling for the rifle. Someone screaming. Water everywhere. Then Claire was there, zip-tied hands swinging the master fob like a weapon, smashing it into another gunman's face mask. She was magnificent, a CEO who'd spent 6 months learning Krav Maga after the first corporate sabotage attempt and was finally getting to use it. The van, Ethan shouted. Go! She ran. He followed. Behind them, gunmen recovering, shouting orders, firing shots that sparked off metal and shattered windshields. Something hot grazed Ethan's shoulder, but he didn't stop. Claire was already in the van's driver's seat, zip-tied hands fumbling with controls. Can you drive? Watch me. No keys. Didn't need them. The engine was already running. Claire slammed the gear shift into drive with her bound wrists and floored it. The van lurched forward, tires screaming, heading straight for the closed gate. Hold on! They hit the gate at 40. Metal shrieked, tore, crumpled. The van burst onto the street, sparks flying, one headlight dead, and suddenly they were free. Traffic. City lights. Normal people having normal Thursday nights. Claire drove 3 blocks hard right into an alley, killed the engine. For 5 seconds, neither moved, just breathing, alive. Then, Claire started laughing, pure relief, after surviving something impossible. That was the stupidest, bravest thing anyone's ever done for me. You're welcome. Ethan's shoulder burned. You okay? Better than okay. She held up her zip-tied wrists. Knife. He found a utility blade in the console, cut the plastic. Claire rubbed circulation back into her hands, then turned to really look at him for the first time. Past the uniform, past the grease stains, seeing him. Who are you? Ethan Cole. Security, sort of. Mostly I fix elevators. You're not just security. Army mechanic, 10th Mountain Division, long time ago. Mechanics don't move like you moved. I got lucky. Luck doesn't cut it. You saved 200 people tonight. You saved yourself. That elbow strike all you. After you created the opening. She smiled, and he noticed a small scar above her left eyebrow for the first time. We make a good team. Team's breaking up. You call the police, I check on my daughter. Your daughter? Lily, 7 years old. Probably having nightmares I'm not there for. He reached for the door handle. Claire caught his arm. Wait. Those men knew exactly where to go. Security codes building layout timing. Someone inside set this up. That's for the cops. The cops will arrest some IT guy who forgot to log out and close the case. Her voice went sharp. Whoever really did this walks away. Not my problem. It is when they come after you next. She leaned closer. You just ruined a multi-million-dollar operation. You're a witness, a threat. And threats don't get to go home to 7-year-old daughters. Cold settled into Ethan's stomach, too. She was right. What do you want? Help me find who did this, before they finish it. I'm not an investigator. No, you're better. You see what others miss. You don't play politics. You just do the right thing. She paused. I need that. Please. Ethan thought about Lily dreaming about watercolors. Thought about his wife, who died doing the right thing and left him to raise their daughter alone. Thought about all the smart, safe reasons to walk away. Then he thought about 200 people who went home tonight because he hadn't been smart or safe. Okay. One condition. Name it. You get my daughter real protection, not mall cops. People who know what they're doing. Done. I'll have a team at your apartment in an hour. How, you don't even know where I live? Claire smiled. I'm a CEO. I know everything about everyone in my building, including former Army mechanics who are too good for the jobs they take. She pulled out her phone, made a call. 30 seconds, hung up. There. Your daughter has 2 bodyguards outside her door and 1 inside with your neighbor, ex-Secret Service. That fast? I don't waste time. She climbed out. Come on, we have work to do. Now it's past midnight. Which means police are contaminating my crime scene, and whoever set this up is covering tracks. Every second we wait, evidence disappears. Claire started walking back toward the building. So, we don't wait. Ethan followed, because what else could he do? They approached Novatech through the loading dock, avoiding the front where police cars and news vans already clustered. Claire used her executive keycard, and they slipped inside like ghosts. The building still smelled like smoke and fear. Security office? Claire whispered. If they had inside help, they needed camera schedules and access codes. Everything routes through one terminal. 3rd floor stairs. The security office was already ransacked. Monitors, dark door, hanging open files, scattered drives ripped from computers. Professional cleaning job. Too late, Ethan said. Maybe. Claire sat at the main terminal, fingers flying. They scrubbed primary systems, but Novatech has redundant backup that mirrors everything every 6 hours. Secret. Known only to me and IT management. If it's secret, they didn't know. She pulled up a directory tree, started copying files to an external drive. I built redundancies into every major system because previous leadership was sloppy and corrupt. File transfer bar moved. 20%. 40. Few minutes. Ethan moved to the window, watching police activity below. What would someone steal? That's weird. They went for the server room, but not the main servers. Those contain medical research worth hundreds of millions. They wanted financial archives, tax records, payroll, vendor payments, audit trails. Someone covering tracks. But why stage a hostage situation? Why not hack remotely? Because they needed physical access to erase something that couldn't be deleted digitally, something that required administrator privileges only available inside the building. Claire stopped typing, stared at him. What? That's brilliant. She pulled up a new window, searching archived documents. 6 months ago, my CFO flagged irregularities in our European subsidiary. Money moving through shell companies' payments to ghost vendors. He brought it to the board, but our chairman said it was accounting error and buried it. Who's your chairman? Richard Hale. Co-founded Novatech with my father 20 years ago. When Dad died, Richard became my mentor. Taught me everything. Her voice dropped. He's family. File transfer hit 100%. Claire yanked the drive, pocketed it, stood. We need to leave. Now. Why? The backup server was also scrubbed. Someone with root admin access deleted everything in the last 40 minutes, while we've been here, which means they're still in the building. They ran, downstairs through maintenance corridors, moving fast and quiet. If someone had scrubbed the backup in the last 40 minutes, they'd either gotten incredibly lucky or known exactly when Claire would check, which meant, they're tracking you, Ethan said. Phone keycard, something. Claire pulled out her phone, stared at it, then threw it against the wall. Screen shattered. She kept moving. They burst through the loading dock exit into the alley. Headlights flared at both ends, boxing them in. 2 black SUVs. Doors opened. Men in suits stepped out. The leader from earlier stood center, no longer in tactical gear. Now he looked like a lawyer. Someone who'd blend perfectly into boardrooms. Ms. Morgan, Mr. Hale would like to speak with you. Claire's face went white. No. Not a request. Richard. She sounded broken. Richard's behind this. He prefers to think of it as protecting his investment. Now please come quietly. Ethan stepped in front of Claire. She's not going anywhere. Mr. Cole, decorated veteran, single father, dead wife, very tragic. The man smiled. It would be even more tragic if something happened to your daughter. Lily wasn't it. Everything in Ethan went cold. If you touch her, then cooperate, both of you. In the vehicle. Now. No choice, no weapons, no backup, no escape, except through 6 armed men. Then Ethan remembered something his wife said in that field hospital while mortars fell. Fear is just information. Use it. He smiled. Okay, we'll come. But first, did Richard Hale really think you could pull this off? His voice was conversational, friendly even. Staging a robbery, kidnapping the CEO, covering up embezzlement all in one night. That's ambitious. Probably too ambitious. We've done fine. Have you? You didn't account for the redundant backup server. You didn't realize scrubbing it would leave a timestamp narrowing your identity to 5 people. And you assumed Claire Morgan would roll over when her mentor betrayed her. But she won't, because that's not who she is. Claire caught on, lifted her chin. He's right. You can threaten us, kill us even. But you can't stop what's already in motion. I uploaded everything to a secure external server before we left. Tax records, audit trails, communications between Richard and shell companies. All time-stamped, backed up in 3 locations. Complete bluff. She'd done none of it, but she sold it with absolute conviction. The leader hesitated. You're lying. Am I? Want to bet Richard Hale's freedom on that? Because if I'm telling the truth and you kill us, that data goes straight to the SEC, FBI, and every major news outlet. Automatically. 30 minutes after my biometrics stop registering. Dead man's switch. Set it up 3 years ago after a board member tried to sabotage me. She leaned forward. So here's what happens. You let us walk. Tell Richard his embezzlement scheme is over, and pray I'm feeling generous about attempted murder charges. Silence. The men looked at their leader, everyone calculating. Then Ethan's phone buzzed. Text from Mrs. Chen. Lily's fine. Strange men outside say they're protecting her. Should I worry? Relief flooded through him. The bodyguards showed up. Lily was safe, which meant he could do something stupid. Time's up, Ethan said, and punched the nearest man in the throat. What followed wasn't elegant, just chaos and desperation, two people who'd rather die fighting than die on their knees. Ethan moved like violence. Someone forgot to turn off hitting anything that moved using elbows and knees, and ugly street fighting that won't win medals, but keeps you breathing. Claire grabbed a tire iron from behind the dumpster and swung for the fences, screaming absolutely feral. They didn't win. 6 against 2 doesn't work. But they lasted long enough for sirens to approach for the men to realize this wasn't worth it. Fall back. Go. SUVs peeled away. Ethan collapsed against the wall, bleeding from a dozen places. Claire leaned beside him, still clutching the tire iron, breathing hard. Did we survive that? Think so. Good. She started laughing, wild relief. Because we'll need to survive a lot more before this is over. Police flooded the alley. Questions, statements, EMTs trying to patch Ethan while he insisted on calling Mrs. Chen first, making sure Lily was really okay. Hours blurred until finally, just before dawn, they were released. Claire drove him home in her Tesla. They didn't talk. Too tired. But when she pulled up outside his building, she didn't leave. Tomorrow, I'm going to the board, exposing Richard. I need you there as witness. What time? 10 a.m. Emergency session. I'll be there. Thank you. For everything. She touched his hand. Ethan climbed out, watched her drive away, then dragged himself up 3 flights to Mrs. Chen's. The bodyguards were exactly where promised. Mrs. Chen opened the door, eyes worried, but before she could speak, Ethan went straight to Lily's room. She was asleep, curled with her stuffed rabbit, breathing softly, untouched by the nightmare. He knelt beside her bed and cried. Just for a minute. Just enough to let the fear out. Then he went home, showered, and started researching Richard Hale. Because tomorrow would bring more danger, more lies, more desperate people doing desperate things. But this time, Ethan planned to be. His phone rang. Unknown number. 2:47 a.m. He almost didn't answer. Then something made him pick up. Silence on the other end. Just breathing. Then a voice. Calm. Cold. Familiar. You should have stayed invisible, Ethan. The line went dead. Ethan stood in his empty apartment phone, still pressed to his ear, and felt the bottom drop out of his world. Because that voice didn't belong to Richard Hale or his hired guns. It belonged to someone he'd trusted. Someone who knew where he lived, where Lily slept. Someone inside Novatech who'd been watching this whole time. And now they knew he was coming for them. Ethan's hand shook so hard he nearly dropped the phone. That voice. He knew that voice, but his brain refused to place it, like his subconscious was protecting him from something too terrible to accept. He dialed Claire. 3 a.m. didn't matter anymore. Nothing mattered, except that someone who knew where his daughter slept had just threatened him. She answered on the first ring. Ethan, what's wrong? Someone just called me. Someone from inside Novatech. His voice came out raw. They know about Lily. They know everything. I'm coming to you. Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone except me. Claire, if they... 20 minutes. I'm already in my car. She hung up. Ethan stood frozen in his living room, staring at his phone like it was a bomb. The number showed as blocked. No way to trace it. No way to know who'd just reached through the darkness and wrapped their hand around his throat. He moved to Lily's room. The bodyguards were still outside Mrs. Chen's door. He could see them through his peephole. 2 men in dark suits, alert professional. But what if professional wasn't enough? What if whoever called had resources that made bodyguards irrelevant? His phone buzzed. Text from Claire. "Downstairs, let me up." Ethan checked the peephole again, saw her in the hallway still wearing the same clothes from earlier, but now she had a laptop bag over her shoulder. He opened the door. "Tell me exactly what they said." "Just 1 sentence. You should have stayed invisible, Ethan." Then they hung up. Claire pushed past him into the apartment, already pulling out her laptop. Voicemail female. Male, but distorted, like he was using some kind of filter. Did he sound rushed? Nervous confident? Confident, like he'd already won. Ethan closed the door locked. It checked it twice. "Claire, how did they get my number? I'm not listed. I'm not on social media. I'm nobody." "You're in the Novatech employee database. Name, address, phone, emergency contacts. Anyone with admin access can pull that." She set up her laptop on his kitchen table, fingers already flying. "Which means our pool of suspects just narrowed significantly." "To who?" 23 people have the clearance level required to access employee personal data, but only 7 of those people were in the building tonight during the attack. She pulled up a list of names. Richard Hale, obviously. My CFO Marcus Chen, CTO David Brennan, Head of HR Jennifer Walsh, Head of Security Tom Rodriguez, and 2 senior IT administrators, Kevin Park and Sarah Lindstrom. Could be any of them. Could be. But whoever called you knew you helped me escape, which means they either have access to our security footage or they were physically present during the attack. Claire zoomed in on the timeline. The backup server was scrubbed at 1:43 a.m. You got your threat call at 2:47 a.m. That's barely an hour. Someone working fast, covering tracks, trying to scare you off before we could dig deeper. It's working. She looked up. What? The scaring part. It's working. Ethan sat down heavily. I've got a 7-year-old daughter sleeping 2 floors down. I can't do this. I can't put her in danger because I wanted to play hero. You didn't play anything. You saved lives. And now someone wants to take a life back. Mine. Maybe hers. He put his head in his hands. I should have just let them take you. Should have stayed invisible like they said. Claire was quiet for a long moment. Then she closed her laptop and moved to sit across from him. My father died when I was 16. Heart attack. Sudden. One day he was teaching me how to read financial statements. The next day he was gone. Her voice was soft. Richard Hale stepped in. Became my guardian, my mentor, the only family I had left. He taught me everything about running Novatech. I trusted him completely. And tonight I found out he's been embezzling millions and is willing to kill people to hide it. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm telling you this because I understand being afraid for the people you love. But I also understand that sometimes the only way to keep them safe is to fight back harder than the people trying to hurt them. She leaned forward. Lily's in danger whether you help me or not, because you already helped me. You already made yourself a target. The only question now is whether you face it head on, or wait for them to come for you. Ethan knew she was right, hated that she was right. What do? We go to that board meeting at 10 a.m. We present everything we know. We force Richard to explain himself in front of witnesses. And we watch very carefully to see who in that room tries to protect him. Because whoever tries to protect him is either complicit or the person who called you. Claire opened her laptop again. I'm sending you files right now. Everything I pulled from the backup server before it was scrubbed. Tax documents, audit trails, email chains between Richard and shell companies in the Cayman Islands. Read it. Memorize it. Because when we walk into that boardroom, you need to know this case as well as I do. Ethan's phone chimed. Files downloading. He opened the first one and felt his stomach drop. Millions of dollars moving through ghost companies. fake vendor invoices, payments to offshore accounts, Richard Hale's digital signature on every transaction. This is enough to put him away for decades. If we can prove it is real and not fabricated, if we can get the board to take it seriously instead of circling wagons to protect the company's reputation, if we can survive long enough to testify. Claire pulled up another screen. I'm also sending this to my lawyer with instructions to release it to federal authorities if anything happens to either of us. Real dead man switch this time, not a bluff. Will that stop them? It'll make them think twice about killing us, but it won't stop them from trying other ways to silence us, discrediting us, threatening us, making us disappear in ways that look accidental. You're really selling this plan. Claire almost smiled. I'm trying to be honest. This is dangerous. You still have time to walk away. No, I don't. You said it yourself. I'm already a target. Then we'd better make sure we hit back first. They worked through the night, Ethan reading financial documents he barely understood, while Claire explained shell company structures and money laundering techniques. By 6 a.m., they had a timeline of Richard's embezzlement spanning 8 years. By 7 a.m., they'd identified 3 other board members who'd likely known about it and stayed quiet. By 8 a.m., Ethan's eyes burned and his shoulder throbbed where the bullet had grazed him, but he understood the case well enough to testify. I need to check on Lily, he said. Go. I'll keep working. He went down to Mrs. Chen's apartment. The bodyguards nodded at him, professionals who asked no questions. Mrs. Chen opened the door looking exhausted. Ethan, what's happening? These men won't tell me anything except that Lily's in danger. I know. I'm sorry. It's work-related. Should be resolved today. Should be. Will be, he corrected, trying to sound confident. Can you keep her home from school, just for today? Of course, but she'll ask questions. Tell her I had to work late. Tell her anything. Just keep her safe. He slipped into Lily's room. She was awake now, sitting up in bed with her stuffed rabbit dark hair messy from sleep. When she saw him, her face lit up. Daddy? Mrs. Chen said you had to work all night. I did, baby. Important job. Are you fixing the big elevators again? Something like that. He sat on her bed, pulled her into a hug. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and innocence. Hey, Lilybug, I need you to do something for me today. What? Stay inside with Mrs. Chen. No going outside. No answering the door unless it's me or Mrs. Chen. Can you do that? Why? Because Daddy needs to know you're safe while I'm working. She pulled back, looking at him with those impossibly wise 7-year-old eyes. Are you in trouble? No, sweetheart. I'm helping someone who's in trouble, but I need to know you're okay so I can focus. Like when Mommy helped those soldiers. Ethan's throat tightened. They didn't talk about her mother often. Lily had been too young when she died to really remember her. But sometimes she said things that proved she understood more than he gave her credit for. Yeah, exactly like that. Okay, I'll stay inside. But Daddy. Yeah. Come back. Like actually come back. Not like Mommy. He kissed her forehead. I promise. Promises he might not be able to keep. Promises that tasted like lies. But what else could he say? He went back upstairs. Claire was on the phone, her voice sharp and commanding. I don't care what the bylaws say, Marcus. I'm calling an emergency board session and you will be there. 10 a.m., conference room A, non-negotiable. She listened. Because if you're not there, I'll assume you're complicit in Richard's embezzlement scheme, and I'll have federal agents waiting for you instead. Your choice. She hung up. That's 5 board members confirmed. Still waiting on Richard Jennifer Walsh from HR and Tom Rodriguez from security. Will Richard actually show? He'll show. His ego won't let him stay away. He'll think he can talk his way out of this or intimidate me into backing down. Claire checked her watch. We've got 90 minutes. You should eat something. Not hungry. Eat anyway. You're running on adrenaline and spite. Neither is sustainable. She was right. Ethan made toast, forced himself to eat it, drank coffee that tasted like battery acid. His phone stayed silent. No more threatening calls. Somehow that was worse than if they'd called again. The silence felt like someone watching from the dark, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. At 9:30 they left for Novatech. The bodyguards followed in a separate car, keeping distance, but staying close enough to respond if needed. The morning was gray and cold, typical Seattle October, but Ethan felt like he was heading into something final, a reckoning he'd been avoiding his whole life. They entered through the main lobby this time. Police tape still cordoned off sections of the building, but business was trying to resume. Employees moved through the halls with shell-shocked expressions, whispering to each other, glancing at Claire with a mixture of awe and fear. The CEO who'd been kidnapped and escaped. The woman who refused to be a victim. Conference room A was on the executive floor. Claire's heels clicked on marble as they approached. Through the glass walls, Ethan could see 5 people already seated. Marcus Chen, the CFO, looked nervous. David Brennan from IT appeared calm. Jennifer Walsh from HR was scrolling through her phone. Tom Rodriguez from security sat with his arms crossed, face unreadable. And at the head of the table, Richard Hale sat like a king on a throne, perfectly composed, silver hair immaculate. He smiled when Claire entered. There she is, our brave CEO, fresh from her ordeal. Claire, we were so worried about you. Were you? Claire's voice was ice. She set her laptop on the table but didn't sit. Worried enough to orchestrate my kidnapping. The room went silent. Richard's smile didn't waver. That's quite an accusation. I assume you have evidence. I have 8 years of financial records showing you've embezzled $47 million from Novatech through shell companies and fake vendor contracts. I have email chains between you and offshore accounts. I have timestamps proving you had the backup servers scrubbed during last night's attack. And I have testimony from witnesses who heard your men admit you ordered the kidnapping. Marcus Chen went pale. Jennifer Walsh stopped scrolling. Tom Rodriguez leaned forward. David Brennan's expression never changed. Richard stayed calm. Is this witness in the room? I am. Ethan stepped forward. The men who tried to kill us last night said they worked for you. Said you wanted Claire silenced before she could expose your embezzlement. And you are Ethan Cole, building maintenance. Richard laughed. Actual laughter, warm and genuine. Claire, you're building a criminal case against me using testimony from a janitor. He's not a janitor. He's a decorated Army veteran who saved 200 lives last night while your hired guns tried to murder them. So he's a hero. Wonderful. Heroes make terrible witnesses. Too emotionally invested. Too eager to see villains where there are only innocent men. Richard stood buttoning his suit jacket. Here's what actually happened. Someone, possibly a competitor, possibly a disgruntled employee, staged an attack on Novatech to steal proprietary research data. They failed. Our security systems worked. Claire escaped unharmed thanks to quick thinking from maintenance staff. And now, in the aftermath, Claire is experiencing trauma-induced paranoia and seeing conspiracy where there's only tragedy. The financial records are fabricated or misinterpreted. Marcus, you reviewed those European accounts. Did you find any actual evidence of criminal activity? Marcus hesitated. There were irregularities, but nothing actionable, nothing criminal, just complex international accounting that looked suspicious to untrained eyes. Richard moved around the table, positioning himself between Claire and the door. Claire, I understand you're upset. Last night was terrifying. But accusing me, the man who raised you, who built this company with your father, of trying to kill you, that's not just wrong. It's heartbreaking. Don't. Claire's voice shook. Don't you dare use my father against me. Your father would be ashamed of what you're doing right now. My father would have turned you in the moment he discovered what you were stealing. Your father knew everything. Richard said it softly, letting the words land like bombs. We built those shell companies together. We moved money together. Every dollar I took he approved. Because that's how business works at this level, Claire. That's how empires are built. Claire looked like she'd been slapped. You're lying. Am I? Ask Marcus. Ask David. Ask anyone who worked with your father in the early days. He was brilliant, but he wasn't clean. None of us are. Ethan watched Claire's face crumble and rebuilt itself in seconds. Watched her process betrayal on top of betrayal. Then watched her spine straighten. Even if that's true, and I don't believe it is, it doesn't excuse what you did last night. You tried to have me killed. I was home last night. Ask my wife. Ask my security detail. I was nowhere near this building. You hired people. Prove it. Show me one piece of evidence directly connecting me to those attackers, one phone record, one payment, one witness who can put me in contact with them. Richard spread his hands. You can't, because it doesn't exist. The servers were scrubbed by the attackers, who had inside help certainly, but not from me. He turned to the rest of the board. I propose we table this discussion until Claire has had time to recover from her trauma. Clearly, she's not thinking clearly right now. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. Claire opened her laptop. Which is why I've already sent all of this evidence to federal authorities, SEC, FBI, and DOJ. They'll be here within the hour to begin a formal investigation. Richard's mask finally cracked, just for a second, a flash of rage before the smooth composure returned. That was a mistake. Was it? Because if you're innocent like you claim, a federal investigation will clear your name. But if you're guilty, it'll destroy you. Either way, the truth comes out. The truth. Richard laughed again, but this time it was cold. You want truth. Here's truth. Every person in this room is complicit. Every board member, every executive, every senior employee. We all knew money was moving in ways that didn't quite add up. We all benefited from budgets that shouldn't have existed. We all stayed quiet because staying quiet meant bigger bonuses and better stock options. He looked around the table. So go ahead, Claire. Burn it all down. But when the feds start digging, they won't just find me. They'll find all of us. Marcus Chen stood up. I need to call my lawyer. Jennifer Walsh was already heading for the door. David Brennan gathered his things. Tom Rodriguez stayed seated watching everything with those unreadable eyes. Meeting adjourned, Richard said. Claire, when you're ready to discuss this like adults instead of throwing tantrums, you know where to find me. He walked out. The others followed, except Tom Rodriguez, who sat perfectly still studying Ethan with an expression that made every nerve in Ethan's body scream danger. Mr. Cole, can I speak with you privately? No, Claire said immediately. It's about his daughter. Ethan's blood went cold. What about her? There's been a development. Your neighbor's apartment. Someone tried to breach it 20 minutes ago. Tom's voice stayed level. The bodyguard stopped them, but I thought you should know. Who was it? We're still determining that, but I wanted to offer additional security. A safe house if you'd like. Somewhere your daughter can stay until this situation resolves. Every instinct Ethan had screamed trap. Why would you help me? Because despite what you might think, not everyone in this company is corrupt. Some of us actually care about doing the right thing. Tom stood. The offer stands. Think about it. He left. Ethan and Claire stood alone in the conference room. That was him, Ethan said. The phone call. That was Tom Rodriguez. You can't know that. I can. The way he said development. The way he emphasized your daughter. That was a threat disguised as help. Ethan was already moving toward the door. I need to get to Lily, now. They ran, down the executive floor past confused employees into the elevator. Ethan's phone rang. Mrs. Chen. Ethan, something happened. These men with guns showed up and there was shouting and... Is Lily okay? She's fine, she's right here, but I don't understand what's happening. Lock your door. Don't let anyone in. I'm coming. The elevator took forever. Ethan's mind raced through worst-case scenarios. Lily hurt. Lily taken. Lily used as leverage against him. By the time they reached the parking garage, he was shaking. Claire drove like she was trying to break land speed records. Through traffic, through red lights, through a Seattle that suddenly felt too big and too dangerous. Ethan's apartment building appeared, and he was out of the car before she fully stopped. Up the stairs. 3 flights in maybe 10 seconds. The bodyguards were still there, but now there were police too. Yellow tape. Crime scene markers. And standing in the hallway, very calm, very composed, was Tom Rodriguez. "Mr. Cole, your daughter's safe. The intruder never made it past the door." Who was the intruder? "We're still identifying him, but he was carrying this." Tom held up a phone in an evidence bag. "Encrypted. Burner. But he made one call before we apprehended him. Want to guess who he called?" "Tell me." "Richard Hale's personal cell." Ethan stared at him. "You're saying Richard sent someone after my daughter?" "I'm saying the evidence suggests that, which is why I'm here to help you build a case against him." Tom's expression never changed. "I've been investigating Richard for 6 months, gathering evidence, building a file. Last night's attack forced everything into the open before I was ready. But now that it's started, I want to finish it. And I think you and Ms. Morgan can help me do that." Claire appeared behind Ethan. "Why should we trust you?" "Because I'm the one who's been keeping Richard's hired guns from killing you all night. The bodyguards, I arranged them. The police response, I called them. The evidence about the intruder, I made sure it was preserved instead of disappeared." Tom stepped closer. "I'm not the enemy. I'm the only reason you're both still alive. Or you're the one who called me at 3 a.m. and threatened my daughter." "If I wanted to threaten your daughter, Mr. Cole, I wouldn't have needed to call you. I would have simply removed the bodyguards and let Richard's people take her." Tom's voice stayed flat. "But I didn't. Because unlike Richard, I actually care about protecting innocent people. Even when it's inconvenient. Even when it's dangerous." Ethan wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that someone in this mess was actually on their side. But trust was what got people killed. "Prove it," Claire said. "Prove you're really investigating Richard." Tom pulled out a flash drive. 6 months of financial records, communications, witness statements, and surveillance footage. Everything you need to put Richard away for life. I was planning to give this to federal authorities next week, but given current circumstances, I think you should have it now. He handed it to Claire. She plugged it into her phone, scrolling through files, her expression shifting from skeptical to shocked. "This is extensive. This is everything, including evidence that Richard's been planning to eliminate you since your father died. You were never meant to actually run Novatech, Claire. You were supposed to be a figurehead while Richard controlled everything from behind the scenes. But you turned out to be too smart, too independent, too much like your father. So he decided you were a liability. And last night was supposed to look like you died in a tragic robbery. A CEO killed protecting her employees. Very heroic. Very final. Richard would have stepped in as interim CEO, consolidated power, and buried all evidence of his crimes." Tom glanced at Ethan. "You weren't part of the plan. You were a complication, which is why he's now trying to eliminate you too. Who else knows about your investigation? No one. Not even my own team. I couldn't risk Richard finding out before I had enough evidence." Tom turned toward the stairs. "Which means right now, you two are the only people I can trust, and I'm the only person who can keep you alive long enough to see Richard face justice." "What do you want from us?" Ethan asked. "Help me finish this. Today. Right now. Before Richard realizes what we know and runs." Tom started down the stairs. "I know where he keeps his real financial records. The ones that prove everything. But I need executive clearance to access them. Which means I need Claire." Claire looked at Ethan. Ethan looked at the door where his daughter was waiting, looked at the police and the crime scene tape, and the evidence that someone had tried to take her. "Okay," he said. "But first, I see my daughter. I make sure she's really okay. Then we finish this." Tom nodded. "You've got 10 minutes." Ethan went inside, Lily ran to him immediately, wrapping her small arms around his waist. She was crying. He picked her up, even though she was getting too big for that, held her while she sobbed into his shoulder. "Daddy, I was so scared." "I know, baby. I know, but you're safe now." Mrs. Chen said bad men came, said they wanted to hurt us. "They're gone now. They can't hurt you. Promise." Another promise he wasn't sure he could keep. Another lie that tasted like ash. "I promise. But Lily, I need you to do something really important for me." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "What?" "I need you to be brave a little bit longer. Can you do that?" She nodded. "Good girl. Stay with Mrs. Chen. Stay inside. The police are right outside. If anything happens, you scream as loud as you can. Okay." "Where are you going?" "To make sure the bad men never come back." He kissed her forehead, set her down, and walked back into the hallway before he could change his mind. Before fear could make him stay. Before he could think too hard about what he was about to do. Claire was waiting. Tom was waiting. And somewhere in Novatech's glass tower, Richard Hale was waiting too, probably already planning his next move. "Let's go," Ethan said. "Let's end this." They drove back to Novatech in silence. But halfway there, Ethan's phone rang again. Unknown number. Different from last night, but somehow worse. He answered. Said nothing. Waited. "Touching what you told your daughter." The voice was different now. No filter, no distortion, just cold clarity. "But we both know you can't protect her. Not from this. Not from us." "Who are you?" "Someone who's been watching you much longer than you realize, Ethan. Someone who knows every choice you've ever made. Every mistake. Every weakness." A pause. "Your wife didn't have to die in Helmand. Did you know that? The intelligence about that mortar attack came through our channels 6 hours before it happened. We could have warned your base. Could have evacuated the medical tent. But we didn't. Because sometimes casualties are acceptable if they serve a larger purpose." Ethan couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process what he was hearing. "You're lying." "Am I?" Ask yourself why a random mortar attack hit a field hospital in the middle of nowhere. Ask yourself why your wife specifically was targeted. Ask yourself who benefits from keeping certain soldiers alive and letting others die. The voice softened. "We've been watching you for 7 years, Ethan. Ever since your wife became a problem. Ever since she started asking questions about medical supplies that kept disappearing. About surgeries that never happened. About contracts that didn't make sense. What are you talking about? Novatech didn't just make medical equipment, Mr. Cole. We made weapons. Your wife discovered that. She was going to report it. So we eliminated the problem." A pause. "Just like we're about to eliminate you." The line went dead. Ethan sat frozen, the phone still pressed to his ear, his entire world tilting sideways. His wife. His wife had been murdered. Not killed in combat. Murdered. By Novatech. By the same people he was now trying to stop. Claire was saying something, but he couldn't hear her through the roaring in his ears. Tom was talking, but the words meant nothing. Because Ethan finally understood. This wasn't about embezzlement. This wasn't about corporate corruption. This was about a weapons program his wife had discovered. A program worth killing for. A program that Richard Hale would burn the entire world to protect. And Ethan had just painted a target on his daughter's back by threatening to expose it. The world came back in fragments. Claire's hand on his arm. Tom's voice asking if he was okay. The car still moving through Seattle traffic. But nothing felt real anymore. Nothing except the voice on the phone telling him his wife had been murdered 7 years ago, and he'd been too stupid to see it. "Ethan!" Claire's voice was sharp. "What did they say to you?" He couldn't answer. His throat had closed. His hands were shaking so hard, he had to sit on them. "Ethan, I need you to breathe. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. Come on. He tried. Failed. Tried again. Air came in jagged gasps. Pull over, Claire told Tom. Now. The car swerved to the curb. Ethan threw open the door and stumbled out onto the sidewalk. His knees hit concrete, but he didn't feel it. Didn't feel anything except the crushing weight of 7 years of lies collapsing on top of him. Claire was beside him. Tell me what they said. My wife. The words came out broken. They killed her. They killed Sarah. Who did? Novatech, Richard, someone. He looked up at her. She found something. About weapons. About contracts that didn't make sense. They killed her to keep her quiet. Tom was out of the car now, too, moving to block them from view of passing traffic. What exactly did the caller say? Ethan repeated it word for word. The mortar attack that shouldn't have happened. The intelligence that came through 6 hours early but was never acted on. The medical supplies that disappeared. Sarah asking questions she shouldn't have asked. Tom's expression went very still. That's not possible. Novatech doesn't manufacture weapons. We build medical devices, surgical equipment, diagnostic tools. Then why would someone say, to break you, to make you emotional and sloppy? Tom crouched down to Ethan's level. Whoever called you is playing psychological warfare. They want you so consumed with rage and grief that you can't think straight, can't see the trap they're building. But what if it's true? Ethan's voice cracked. What if they really did kill her? Then we find proof. Real proof, not just words from an anonymous caller. Tom stood, offered his hand. But first, we get you somewhere safe. Somewhere you can breathe. Ethan let himself be pulled to his feet. Let himself be guided back into the car. But his mind was somewhere else entirely. 7 years in the past. A military chaplain at his door. Words that didn't make sense. Your wife was killed in action. A mortar attack. She died serving her country. Except now, those words meant something different. Now, they meant murder disguised as war. Claire was on her phone typing rapidly. I'm searching Novatech's contract history. Government contracts specifically. Defense Department purchases. You won't find anything, Tom said. If there's a weapons program, it'll be buried under shell companies and false invoicing. Same technique Richard used for his embezzlement, but deeper. More careful. So how do we find it? We don't. We make Richard lead us to it. Tom merged back into traffic. He's scared right now. You saw his face when you mentioned the feds. He knows his embezzlement scheme is about to unravel. But if there's something bigger, something worth killing over, he'll try to protect that first. Which means he'll go to wherever the real evidence is hidden. And we follow him, Claire said. Exactly. Ethan forced himself to focus. The phone call. They said they've been watching me for 7 years, which means they know about Lily. They know where she goes to school, what she likes, who her friends are. Your daughter's surrounded by bodyguards and police right now. She's the most protected 7-year-old in Seattle. Until she's not. Until we make one mistake and they get to her. Ethan's hands clenched. I can't let that happen. I won't survive losing her too. Claire turned in her seat. Then we end this today. Right now. We find the evidence, we expose Richard, and we make sure he goes to prison, where he can't hurt anyone ever again. And if the evidence doesn't exist, it exists. My father didn't die of a heart attack. She said it flatly, like she'd been holding the words inside for years and was only now letting them out. I've suspected for a while. He was 54, ran marathons, had perfect cholesterol. Then one day his heart just stops. No warning, no symptoms. She looked out the window. I ordered a private autopsy 3 months after he died. The coroner found traces of potassium chloride in his tissue samples. Not enough to be definitive, but enough to make me wonder. Why didn't you say anything? Because I was 22 years old, freshly graduated from business school, and suddenly running a billion-dollar company. I was terrified. Richard was the only person I trusted. the only person who knew how to navigate everything. I convinced myself I was wrong, that I was seeing conspiracy, because I couldn't accept that my father was just gone. She turned back to Ethan. But I wasn't wrong. Richard killed him. Just like he killed your wife. Just like he'll kill us if we give him the chance. The car fell silent. Tom drove them through downtown Seattle, away from Novatech's glass tower, toward the industrial district where old warehouses lined the waterfront. "Where are we going?" Ethan asked. "Somewhere Richard can't track us. One of Novatech's old facilities. We shut it down 5 years ago when we consolidated operations, but the building still has power and internet." Tom pulled into a gravel parking lot beside a 3-story brick building that looked abandoned. "And it has something else. Server backups from before the company went digital. Physical records that can't be remotely deleted." They got out. Tom used a keycard to open a rusted metal door. Inside the building smelled like mildew and dust. Emergency lights flickered on automatically, casting everything in greenish shadow. "This way." Tom led them through a maze of empty hallways to what had once been an administrative office. Filing cabinets lined the walls. Boxes were stacked floor to ceiling. And in the corner, an old server rack hummed quietly, still running after all these years. Claire immediately moved to the filing cabinets, pulling open drawers. "What are we looking for?" "Anything dated between 2015 and 2018. That's when your father was still alive, and when Novatech first started securing major defense contracts." Tom opened a box, started sorting through files. "Specifically, we need to find Project Nightingale." "What's Project Nightingale?" "I don't know exactly. But 6 months ago, while investigating Richard's embezzlement, I found a single reference to it in an encrypted email. The project was funded through one of his shell companies with a budget of $80 million. No oversight, no documentation, just money disappearing into a black hole. Ethan joined them, pulling files at random. Most were boring corporate documents, payroll records, equipment maintenance logs, vendor invoices for surgical tools and diagnostic machines. Nothing that looked like weapons research. They worked in silence for 20 minutes. Then, Claire made a sound. "Found something. Contract proposal from 2016. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. DARPA." She read quickly. "They wanted Novatech to develop battlefield medical technology, portable surgery units, trauma stabilization equipment. But there's a section here about dual-use applications." "Dual use meaning what?" Ethan asked. "Meaning the same technology that saves lives can also take them. A surgical laser can close wounds or cut through body armor. Trauma drugs can stabilize patients or incapacitate enemies. It's the gray area where medicine becomes weaponry." She kept reading. "My father rejected this proposal. Wrote a memo saying Novatech would never participate in weapons development under any circumstances." "Let me see that." Tom took the file, flipped through it. "This is dated March 2016. Your father died in August 2016, 4 months later. And 2 months after that, Richard signed a new contract with DARPA. Same project, same budget, but now it's approved." Claire pulled out another file. "Project Nightingale. Medical Countermeasure Development. $80 million over 3 years." Ethan felt his pulse quicken. "What kind of countermeasures?" "That's not specified. Just says advanced pharmaceutical and surgical interventions for battlefield applications." Claire looked at Tom. "Where would they have done this research? Not at our main facility. Too many people would notice." "There's a research campus in Redmond, about 30 minutes from here. Officially, it's used for prototype testing, but access is heavily restricted. Only senior researchers and executive staff." "Can we get in?" "I can get us in. But if Richard's people are watching the building, we'll be walking into a trap. Then we call the feds first. Get them to meet us there with a warrant." Claire already had her phone out. "No." Ethan surprised himself with how firm his voice was. "The second we involve federal agents, everything goes official. Lawyers get involved. Evidence disappears behind national security classifications. We'll never know the truth about what they did to Sarah. Ethan, if we go in there alone, I'm not asking you to come with me. Give me the address. I'll go myself. That's suicide. Maybe. But I've been carrying 7 years of guilt thinking Sarah died because I wasn't there to protect her. Thinking if I'd just been paying more attention, or if I'd convinced her not to volunteer for that deployment, she'd still be alive. I need to know the truth. I need to know if she was murdered. And if she was, I need to look the people responsible in the eye before the lawyers and the bureaucrats and the politicians bury everything under classified documents and national security exceptions. Tom and Claire exchanged a look. Then Tom handed him a keycard. Building 7 at the Redmond campus. This card will get you through the main entrance and the elevator to the 3rd floor. That's where the restricted research labs are located. But Ethan, if you're going, I'm going with you. Me too, Claire said. No, you stay here. Keep gathering evidence. If something happens to us, someone needs to know what we found. Ethan took the keycard. And Tom, if we're not back in 2 hours, you call every federal agency you can think of. FBI, SEC, DOJ, DARPA, whoever. You burn this whole thing down. Claire grabbed his arm. Don't be stupid. Don't throw your life away for revenge. I'm not. I'm doing this for Lily. Because if I don't find out what Novatech is really hiding, they'll keep coming after her. They'll wait until she's older and use her against me. Or they'll just eliminate both of us and make it look like an accident. The only way to keep her safe is to expose everything so publicly that killing us becomes pointless. He was right, and they all knew it. Claire pulled him into a quick, fierce hug. Be careful. Come back. I will. Tom led him back to the car. They drove in silence through midday traffic, heading east toward Redmond. Ethan's mind raced through scenarios. Best case, they found evidence documented everything got out clean. Worst case, they walked into an ambush and never walked out. Can I ask you something? Tom said finally. Yeah. Why are you really doing this? Is it about your wife, your daughter? Or is it because you need to believe you're still the man who wore that uniform? Ethan considered the question. All three. And because someone has to stand up and say this is wrong, even if it costs them everything. That's what heroes think, right before they get themselves killed. I'm not a hero. I'm just a dad who fixes elevators and wants his kid to grow up in a world where corporations don't get away with murder. Tom almost smiled. That's the most heroic thing I've heard all day. They reached the Redmond campus at 1 p.m. The facility looked like every other tech park in the Seattle area. Modern buildings, landscaped grounds, parking lots half full of expensive cars. Building 7 sat at the back of the complex, separated from the others by a fence and security checkpoint. Tom pulled up to the gate, showed his credentials to the guard. Maintenance inspection. Should only take an hour. The guard checked a computer screen. You're not on the schedule. Emergency inspection. Water damage reported on the 3rd floor. If we don't assess it now, the whole lab could be compromised by Monday. The guard hesitated, then waved them through. Sign in at the front desk. They parked near the entrance. Building 7 was smaller than the others, only 3 stories, but it had reinforced windows and no visible signage. Whatever happened inside Novatech wanted to keep it quiet. Tom used his keycard to open the front door. The lobby was empty. No receptionist, no security guard, just a sign-in sheet on an unmanned desk and a camera in the corner tracking their movements. We've got maybe 5 minutes before someone notices we're here, Tom said quietly. 3rd floor. Let's move. They took the elevator. It opened onto a hallway lined with laboratory doors. Each had a number but no labels. No indication of what research happened behind them. Tom tried the first door. Locked. The second. Also locked. But the 3rd door opened when he scanned his card. Inside was a laboratory that looked like it belonged in a hospital. Surgical equipment. Examination tables. Cabinets filled with medical supplies. But something was off. The instruments were too precise. The chemicals were too exotic. And in the corner behind a locked glass case were weapons. Actual weapons. Rifles, pistols, and something that looked like a dart gun but was labeled Deployment System Mark IV. Ethan moved to the glass case. What the hell is this? Tom was already at a computer terminal pulling up files. Project Nightingale. It's exactly what we thought. They developed pharmaceutical compounds that could be weaponized, incapacitating agents, neural disruptors, things that look like medical treatment but are actually chemical weapons. That's illegal. Chemical weapons are banned by international treaty. Not if you classify them as medical research. Not if you say they're for defensive purposes only. Not if you bury them so deep inside black-budget programs that nobody knows they exist. Tom kept typing. They tested these compounds on human subjects, prisoners in foreign countries, people who couldn't say no, people who disappeared when the experiments went wrong. Ethan felt sick. My wife found out about this. Probably. If she was working in a field hospital and noticed medical supplies going missing, or noticed soldiers with symptoms that didn't match their injuries, she would have started asking questions, and questions get people killed. Tom pulled a flash drive from his pocket, started downloading files. This is everything. Test results, subject data, financial records showing who approved the project and who profited from it. Richard's name is all over this. So is the previous CFO. And 3 DARPA officials who should have been providing oversight but instead were taking bribes. How long to download everything? 2 minutes, maybe 3. Ethan moved back to the door, watching the hallway. Empty. Quiet. Too quiet. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Multiple people. Moving fast. Tom, we've got company. Not done yet. 30 more seconds. The footsteps grew louder. Ethan could see shadows at the end of the hallway. 4 people, maybe 5. All moving with purpose toward this room. Tom. Done. Got it. Tom yanked the flash drive out, pocketed it. Back exit. This way. They ran deeper into the lab through another door that opened onto a service corridor. Behind them, shouting. Someone yelling to lock down the building. Tom led them down a stairwell, taking steps 3 at a time. Ground floor. Tom pushed through an emergency exit and an alarm began shrieking. They were outside now, behind the building, sprinting toward the parking lot. Gunfire cracked behind them. A bullet sparked off concrete inches from Ethan's head. He dove behind a car, rolled, came up running. Tom was ahead of him, zigzagging between vehicles, making himself a harder target. They reached Tom's car, piled in. Tom gunned the engine, and they were moving before Ethan even got his door closed. More gunfire. The rear window exploded. Tom swerved into traffic, cutting off other cars, running a red light, doing everything possible to put distance between them and the shooters. "Are you hit?" Tom shouted. "No, you?" "I'm good. But they got our license plate. They'll track us." "Where do we go?" "Somewhere public. Somewhere they can't kill us without witnesses." Tom was already dialing his phone. "Claire, we've got the evidence, but we're blown. Meet us at Seattle Center, by the Space Needle. Bring the files from the warehouse and call every news outlet you know. We're going public right now." He hung up. Checked the rearview mirror. 3 cars following us. Professional tail. They're not even trying to hide it. "Can you lose them?" "In Seattle, traffic not likely. But I can get us to somewhere crowded enough that they won't risk shooting." Tom took a hard right onto the highway. "Hold on." What followed was 10 minutes of the most terrifying driving Ethan had ever experienced. Tom wove between cars like he was playing a video game, took exits at the last second, drove the wrong way down one-way streets, and somehow kept the tail from getting close enough to do anything except follow. They reached Seattle Center, the tourist area around the Space Needle, and Tom abandoned the car in a loading zone. They ran into the crowd of tourists and families, becoming just 2 more people in the chaos. Claire was waiting near the base of the Space Needle laptop bag over her shoulder, surrounded by enough people that shooting her would be impossible without killing bystanders. "Did you get it?" she asked immediately. Tom handed her the flash drive. Everything. Test results, financial records, proof that Novatech developed chemical weapons disguised as medical research. And proof that they killed people to hide it, Ethan added, including my wife. Claire plugged the drive into her laptop, scrolling through files. Her expression went from shock to horror to cold fury. This is enough. This is more than enough. Richard's not just going to prison. He's going to disappear into a black site and never see daylight again. First, we have to make it public, Tom said. If we try to give this to the feds quietly, it'll disappear behind national security classifications. But if we release it to the press, if we make it so public that it can't be buried, then they have to act. Claire was already typing. I'm sending this to the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Seattle Times, and every investigative journalist I know. I'm also uploading it to a secure server with instructions to release everything if anything happens to any of us. How long? 5 minutes to send everything. Then we wait for the reporters to verify it and publish. She kept typing. But Ethan, once this goes public, your life changes. People will know your wife was murdered. They'll know you exposed this. You'll be famous and hunted and watched for the rest of your life. I don't care about famous. I care about Lily being safe. She will be. Once this is public, killing you makes no sense. You become more valuable alive as a witness than dead as a martyr. Claire hit send. Done. Files are uploading now. Ethan's phone rang. Unknown number. Again. He answered. Said nothing. Brave move, Mr. Cole. Going to the Redmond facility. Stealing classified research data. You've just committed about 6 federal crimes. The same cold voice from before. And you've signed your daughter's death warrant. You're too late. We just sent everything to the press. By tonight, the whole world will know what Novatech did. Silence. Then laughter. You think releasing information protects you? You think public exposure makes you safe? The voice turned mocking. We've been manipulating public perception for decades. We'll spin this as a rogue executive acting without authorization. We'll sacrifice Richard Hale and make him the villain while the real program continues under different names in different buildings. And you, Mr. Cole, will have an unfortunate accident. Maybe a car crash, maybe a suicide brought on by grief and PTSD. Something tragic but believable. People will know. People will suspect. But they won't prove anything. Because we're very good at making evidence disappear. Just ask your wife. Oh wait, you can't. Because we made her disappear 7 years ago, and nobody even questioned it. The line went dead. Ethan stood frozen. The crowds around him suddenly felt different, threatening. Every face could be an enemy. Every person standing too close could be reaching for a weapon. We need to move, Tom said quietly. They know we're here. But where could they go? Novatech had unlimited resources, government connections, the ability to make people disappear and call it accident or suicide or collateral damage. Claire grabbed both of them. Listen to me. We're not running anymore. We're not hiding. We're going straight to Novatech headquarters, and we're confronting Richard face to face, on camera, with reporters present. We make him answer for what he did in a way that can't be buried or spun or explained away. That's insane, Tom said. It's the only play we have left. They expect us to hide, to wait for the feds or the press to save us. But if we attack first, if we go on offense while they're still reacting, we might actually survive this. Claire started walking toward the parking area. I still have access to Novatech's executive floor. I can call an emergency press conference. Richard will have to show up or look guilty, and when he does, we hit him with everything in front of cameras he can't control. Ethan looked at Tom. Tom looked at Ethan. Neither of them had a better idea. Okay, Ethan said. Let's finish this. They got in Claire's car. The Tesla was still parked where she'd left it, apparently untouched. She drove them back to Novatech's glass tower, calling reporters on the way, telling them she had explosive information about corporate corruption and weapons development. promising them the story of the decade if they showed up in the next 30 minutes. By the time they reached Novatech, 6 news vans were already setting up in the lobby. Cameras, reporters, producers shouting into phones, the kind of media circus that couldn't be controlled or contained. Claire walked straight through them toward the executive elevator. Ethan and Tom flanked her, both scanning the crowd for threats. Richard's people could be anywhere, pretending to be reporters, pretending to be security, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The elevator rose toward the executive floor. Ethan's heart hammered. His hands were steady, but his mind was screaming that this was a trap, that they were walking into an ambush, that Lily was going to grow up without him, just like he'd grown up without Sarah. But he kept walking, because sometimes the only way through fear was straight ahead. The elevator doors opened. The executive floor was full of people, board members, senior staff, and standing at the center of them all, perfectly calm and perfectly composed, was Richard Hale. He smiled when he saw Claire. There she is, come to make more wild accusations. I've come to tell the truth. Claire's voice carried across the room. About Project Nightingale, about chemical weapons, about murder. Richard's smile never wavered. Careful, Claire. Slander is expensive. It's only slander if it's false. She held up the flash drive. I have everything. Test results, financial records, proof that you murdered my father and Ethan's wife to protect illegal weapons research. That's quite a story. Do you have any actual evidence, or just conspiracy theories from a traumatized maintenance worker? I have testimony from the head of your security department. I have documents from your own servers. And in about 5 minutes, I'm going to have reporters from every major news outlet asking you to explain why Novatech has been developing chemical weapons in violation of international law. For the first time, Richard's expression flickered. Just for a second. Fear replacing confidence. Then he laughed. You want a confession? Fine. I'll give you one. Your father was weak. He built Novatech into something profitable and then refused to let it grow beyond medical devices. He turned down defense contracts worth billions because he had moral objections to helping his own country defend itself. So yes, I removed him. And yes, I took control of the company and made it what it should have been from the beginning. Powerful, profitable, unstoppable. The room went silent. Every person stared at Richard like they'd never seen him before. And the soldiers. Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. The people you tested your weapons on, collateral damage, necessary sacrifices for progress. Richard turned to face him directly. Your wife was in the wrong place at the wrong time, asking the wrong questions. I gave her a chance to walk away. She refused. So I made the problem go away, just like I'm about to make you go away. He reached into his jacket. Ethan saw the gun before anyone else did. Saw Richard's hand moving. Saw the weapon coming up. And then everything happened at once. Tom moved first. He crashed into Richard from the side, sending them both to the floor. The gun went off, the shot deafening in the enclosed space, and a window behind Claire spiderwebbed with cracks. People screamed, scattered, dove for cover. Ethan was already moving, crossing the distance to where Tom and Richard wrestled for control of the weapon. He kicked the gun away, sent it skittering across polished marble. Richard's elbow caught Tom in the face, splitting his lip, but Tom didn't let go. They rolled, grappling, two men fighting like their lives depended on it, because they did. Security was pouring into the room now. Novatech's own guards responding to gunfire, weapons drawn, but uncertain who to aim at. The CEO on the floor. The head of security fighting the chairman. A maintenance worker standing between them all. Stand down! Claire's voice cut through the chaos. All of you lower your weapons. That man just confessed to murder in front of 20 witnesses. She's lying. Richard shoved Tom off him, scrambled to his feet. Blood ran from his nose. His perfect composure was gone, replaced by animal desperation. She's trying to frame me for her own crimes. I have proof. Documents showing she's been embezzling from the company, planning to destroy Novatech from within. You mean the documents you fabricated? Claire held up her phone. The ones I watched you create in real time through your own security cameras. The ones I've been recording for the past 6 months. Richard's face went white. You couldn't have. My office is encrypted, secure. Your office is part of my building. Everything flows through servers I control. Claire smiled, and it was terrible to see. You taught me to always have leverage, Richard. To never enter a negotiation without insurance. I've been recording every conversation, every phone call, every email you've sent since the day I started suspecting you killed my father. I have 6 months of evidence showing you planning this, orchestrating everything, including ordering the attack last night. The security guards were lowering their weapons now, understanding shifting across their faces. This wasn't a confused situation. This was their chairman caught in the act of multiple murders. Richard looked around the room like a trapped animal. You can't prove any of this holds up in court. Illegally obtained recordings, stolen documents, all inadmissible. Maybe, but I don't need a court conviction. Claire gestured toward the elevators where reporters were being held back by more security. I need public opinion. And once those reporters air footage of you confessing to murder, once they publish the documents showing Project Nightingale, once the world sees what you've done, it won't matter what's admissible in court. You'll be destroyed. You stupid girl. Richard's voice dropped to something cold and hateful. You think exposing me changes anything. You think Novatech is the only company running black programs. This goes higher than me, higher than this company. Higher than you can possibly imagine. Then let's find out how high. Claire pulled out the flash drive Tom had stolen from the Redmond facility. Because this drive has everything, including communications with your handlers at DARPA, including names of everyone involved in Project Nightingale. Politicians, military officers, corporate executives, all of them complicit in developing illegal weapons and murdering anyone who got too close to the truth. Richard lunged at her, not for the flash drive, for her throat, pure rage overriding any remaining survival instinct. Ethan caught him mid-lunge, drove him backward into a desk. They went down together, Richard's hands clawing at Ethan's face, Ethan's fists driving into Richard's ribs. There was nothing tactical about it, nothing controlled, just two men trying to hurt each other as much as possible. You killed her. Ethan's voice was raw. You killed Sarah, and you took Lily's mother away, and you made me think it was my fault for not being there. She should have minded her own business. Richard bucked, trying to throw Ethan off. She should have stayed quiet like a good little soldier. Ethan hit him again, and again. Feeling bones crack under his knuckles. Feeling 7 years of grief and guilt and rage pouring out through his fists. He would have kept hitting him, would have beaten Richard Hale to death right there if Tom hadn't pulled him away. Ethan, stop. He's not worth it. He killed her. He killed Sarah. I know. But if you kill him now, you go to prison. Lily loses her father. He wins. Tom's grip was iron. Don't let him win. Ethan stopped fighting. Let himself be pulled back. Richard lay on the floor, gasping blood running from his mouth and nose, but still alive, still conscious enough to speak. You think you've won? You've won nothing. They'll bury this. They'll bury all of you. He coughed, spat blood. Project Nightingale was just one program, one small piece of something so much bigger. You can't stop it. You can't even see it. Then help us see it. Claire crouched beside him. Tell us who else is involved. Give us names. Richard laughed, a wet, broken sound. Why would I do that? Because right now you're facing life in prison. Maybe death penalty. But if you cooperate, if you give us everyone above you in the chain, maybe you get witness protection. Maybe you survive. Survive as what? A rat, a traitor. Richard's eyes found Ethan. At least I know what I am. At least I own my choices. But you're going to spend the rest of your life wondering if you made the right call, wondering if exposing this was worth what it'll cost you. I already know it was worth it. Do you? Let's see how you feel when Lily asks why her father destroyed his life over a woman who's been dead 7 years. When she asks why you chose revenge over her. Ethan felt something crack inside him. Not breaking, shifting. Because Richard was wrong. This wasn't about revenge. This was about making sure Lily grew up in a world where her mother's death meant something. Where justice existed. Where powerful men couldn't murder with impunity. I didn't choose revenge over her. I chose truth. There's a difference. The elevator doors opened and federal agents poured out. FBI by their jackets. Weapons drawn, moving with the kind of precision that made Novatech's security look like amateurs. The lead agent, a woman in her 50s with gray hair and hard eyes, surveyed the scene. Who's in charge here? I am. Claire stood. Claire Morgan, CEO of Novatech. This man is Richard Hale, chairman of our board. He just confessed to multiple murders, including the death of Army medic Sarah Cole in 2018 and the murder of my father, James Morgan, in 2016. We have recorded confessions, documentary evidence, and testimony from multiple witnesses. The agent looked at Richard, still on the floor. Richard Hale, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, development of illegal chemical weapons, violation of the Chemical Weapons Convention, and about 15 other charges we'll add once we review the evidence. She gestured to her team. Get him up. Read him his rights. 2 agents hauled Richard to his feet. He didn't resist, didn't speak, just stared at Claire with an expression that promised this wasn't over. That even in custody, even facing life in prison, he still had cards to play. The lead agent turned to Claire. We're going to need everything. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence you have. And we're going to need statements from all of you. We have a flash drive with data from Project Nightingale, research files, test results, communications with DARPA officials. It's all here. Claire handed it over. There's also 6 months of recordings from Richard's office showing him planning the attack on this building last night. Last night's attack, we're aware. Homeland Security has been investigating Novatech for 3 months. We knew Richard Hale was embezzling, but we didn't know about Project Nightingale until your information started hitting newsrooms 30 minutes ago. The agent's expression softened slightly. You did good work, dangerous work, but good. Tell that to the people he killed. Ethan said quietly. I will, when I testify at his trial. She turned to one of her agents. Get me a full forensic team here. I want every server, every computer, every filing cabinet seized. This entire floor is now a federal crime scene. The next 2 hours were a blur. Statements given, evidence collected, reporters trying to push past FBI agents to get interviews. Ethan sat in a conference room answering the same questions over and over. Yes, he witnessed Richard's confession. Yes, he knew Sarah Cole. Yes, she was his wife. No, he didn't know about Project Nightingale until today. Finally, they let him go. Claire was waiting in the hallway, looking exhausted. How are you holding up? I don't know. Won't. Ask me tomorrow. Ethan checked his phone. 3 missed calls from Mrs. Chen. I need to get to Lily. I'll drive you. You don't have to. I want to. Claire started walking toward the elevator. Besides, we should probably talk about what happens next. What do you mean? Richard was right about one thing. This is bigger than him. Project Nightingale involved DARPA officials, military contractors, probably members of Congress. Exposing it doesn't end the story. It starts a war. Not my war. I'm done. I did what I needed to do. Now I just want to go back to fixing elevators and raising my daughter. Claire stopped walking. You can't go back, Ethan. Not to that life. You're a witness in a federal case against some of the most powerful people in the defense industry. You're going to be subpoenaed, deposed, called to testify in trials that'll last years. And you're going to need protection because the people Richard was working with aren't going to just let this go. So what are you saying? I'm saying I want to hire you, officially, as head of security for Novatech. Real position, real salary, Enough that you can afford a better apartment in a safer neighborhood with actual security. Enough that Lily can go to a good school and have the life she deserves. I'm not qualified. You saved this company. You exposed corruption that would have destroyed us. You're exactly qualified. Claire smiled. And honestly, I need someone I can trust. Someone who isn't playing politics or angling for advancement. Someone who just does the right thing because it's right. Ethan wanted to say no, wanted to walk away from all of it, but she had a point. His old life was gone. He was a witness now, a target, and targets needed resources. I'll think about it. That's all I ask. They reached the parking garage. Claire's Tesla was still there, though now it had FBI evidence tags on it. An agent was taking photos of the shattered rear window. We'll need to take your vehicle, the agent said apologetically. Evidence collection. Take it. Claire handed over the keys. I'll get a rental. But before they could leave, Ethan's phone rang. Unknown number. His stomach dropped. He answered. What do you want? To congratulate you, Mr. Cole. A different voice this time. Older, refined. The kind of voice that belonged to boardrooms and country clubs. You've done exactly what we hoped you'd do. Who is this? Someone who's been watching this situation unfold with great interest. You exposed Richard Hale. You brought Project Nightingale into the public eye. You created exactly the kind of scandal we needed. Needed for what? To clean house. Richard was useful once, but he'd become sloppy, greedy, a liability. We needed someone to remove him in a way that looked organic, natural, and you did that perfectly. The voice paused. Project Nightingale is dead. Long live Project Nightingale. What does that mean? It means the program continues, under different names in different facilities with different people. But the work goes on. The research continues. And there's absolutely nothing you can do to stop it because you've already played your part. You've already been the hero. If you try to expose more, you'll just look paranoid. Obsessed. A traumatized veteran who can't let go. People will listen. Will they? You have no more evidence, no more smoking guns, just theories and suspicions. And we're very good at making those look like conspiracy theories. The voice turned warm. Go home, Mr. Cole. Raise your daughter. Take Claire's job offer. Live a comfortable life. You've earned it. And as long as you stay quiet, as long as you don't go looking for connections, you can't prove we'll leave you alone. And if I don't stay quiet, then Lily has a very unfortunate accident. And this time there's no one to blame. No Richard Hale to arrest. No evidence to expose. Just tragedy. The line went dead. Ethan stood frozen. Claire was watching him with concern. What did they say? He told her, every word. Watched her face go from shock to anger to resignation. They're right, she said finally. We can't prove anything beyond Richard, and if we try, they'll destroy us. So we just give up. Let them win. We accept that this is as much as we can accomplish right now. We take the victory we got, and we protect what matters most. Claire touched his arm. Your daughter matters most. Don't lose sight of that. She was right. Ethan hated that she was right. But Lily was waiting. Lily needed him, and he'd promised to come back. They got a rental car, drove in silence back to Ethan's apartment building. The bodyguards were still there, but now they looked different. More alert, more serious, like they understood the threat level had just increased exponentially. Mrs. Chen opened her door before Ethan could knock. Thank God. She's been asking for you all day. Ethan went straight to Lily's room. She was curled up on the bed, not sleeping, just staring at the wall. When she saw him, she ran into his arms. Daddy, I was so scared. I know, baby, I know. Are the bad men gone? Yes, they're gone. Not a lie, not quite. Richard was gone. His immediate threat was neutralized. The larger threat was something Lily didn't need to know about. Can we go home now? Our real home. Soon. We just need to stay here a little longer. Make sure everything's safe." She pulled back, looking at him with those wise eyes that saw too much. "You're lying." "What?" "You're using your scared voice. The one you use when you don't want me to know you're scared." She touched his face. "It's okay if you're scared, Daddy. Mommy used to say being scared just means you're doing something brave." Ethan felt tears burning. She was right. "I miss her." "Me too. But I'm glad I still have you." Lily hugged him tighter. "Even if you're scared." They stayed like that for a long time. Father and daughter. Survivors. Eventually, Claire came to the door. "Ethan, the FBI wants to talk to you again. They have questions about the phone call." "Tell them I'll come to their office tomorrow. Tonight I'm staying with my daughter." Claire nodded. "I'll let them know." She started to leave, then turned back. "That offer stands. The job, the security, whatever you need. Just let me know." "Thank you." After she left, Ethan carried Lily back to his apartment. The bodyguards moved with them, creating a secure perimeter. Inside, everything looked the same. His modest furniture. His kitchen with the broken dishwasher he'd been meaning to fix for 3 months. The apartment of a man who fixed elevators for $12 an hour. But everything was different now. He was different. Lily was different. Their entire world had shifted, and there was no going back to who they'd been before. He made Lily dinner, dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets, because they made her smile. They ate together in front of the TV, watching cartoons, pretending this was a normal night. That tomorrow, they'd wake up, and everything would be fine. After she fell asleep, Ethan sat alone in his living room and finally let himself feel everything he'd been holding back. Grief for Sarah. Rage at Richard. Fear for what came next. Relief that it was over. Terror that it wasn't really over at all. His phone buzzed. Text from Tom Rodriguez. FBI found 3 more bodies in a storage facility linked to Project Nightingale. Test subjects who died during experiments. Your wife might have been trying to report this before they killed her. Thought you should know. Ethan stared at the message. 3 more bodies. 3 more people who'd died so men like Richard Hale could profit from weapons research disguised as medical advancement. Another text from Tom. Also found evidence that Sarah filed a formal complaint with her commanding officer 2 days before she died. Complaint was buried. CO was transferred 3 months later with a promotion. Money in his account from an offshore source. We're digging, but it goes deep. So Sarah had tried to do the right thing. Had tried to go through proper channels. And they'd killed her for it. Another text. Don't blame yourself. She died doing what she believed was right. That's all any soldier can ask for. But Ethan did blame himself. For not seeing it. For not asking more questions. For accepting the military's explanation and moving on, because moving on was easier than digging into painful truth. He thought about the voice on the phone. The promise that the work would continue under different names. The threat against Lily if he didn't stay quiet. And he realized something. He'd spent 7 years trying to be invisible, trying to stay small and safe, trying to protect Lily by avoiding anything that might draw attention. But Sarah hadn't lived that way. She'd seen something wrong, and she'd fought against it, even knowing the cost. She'd been brave when bravery meant sacrifice, and Lily was watching him now, learning from him, deciding what kind of person she wanted to be based on what kind of person he chose to be. Ethan pulled out his phone, called Claire. I'll take the job, head of security, but I want 3 conditions. Name them. First, you establish a whistleblower program at Novatech. Real protection for people who report wrongdoing. Real consequences for people who try to silence them. Done. What else? Second, you create a memorial fund in Sarah's name. For families of soldiers killed in suspicious circumstances. Help them investigate. Help them find truth. I'll have the paperwork drawn up tomorrow. And third, we don't stop. We keep digging. We find everyone connected to Project Nightingale. Politicians, officers, executives, everyone. And we expose them one by one until there's nobody left to threaten my daughter." Claire was quiet for a moment. "That's dangerous. That's possibly suicidal." "Probably. But Sarah died fighting this. I'm not going to honor her memory by hiding from it." "Then I'm with you. All the way. Even if it destroys Novatech. Novatech deserves to be destroyed if it was built on murder. We'll build something better from the ashes." Ethan hung up, looked at his sleeping daughter, made a silent promise to Sarah that he'd finish what she started. His phone buzzed again. This time an email from an address he didn't recognize. The subject line read, "You made a mistake." He opened it. No text, just a photo. The photo showed Lily's school, her classroom window, and circled in red Lily's desk. Below the image, one sentence, "Last chance to walk away." Ethan deleted the email, then forwarded it to the FBI, then texted Tom Rodriguez with the details. Then he went to Lily's room and sat beside her bed, watching her sleep, one hand on the baseball bat he kept in the closet. Because they'd just threatened his daughter. And threatening his daughter was the biggest mistake they could have made. If they wanted a war, he'd give them a war. But first, he'd make sure Lily was safe. That was the only thing that mattered, the only battle worth fighting. Everything else was just details. Dawn came slowly, gray light filtering through cheap curtains. Ethan hadn't slept, couldn't sleep. Every sound in the apartment building was a potential threat. Every footstep in the hallway was an assassin. But morning came anyway. Lily woke up, asked for pancakes, smiled when he made them shaped like bears, because that's what 7-year-olds do. They smile at bear-shaped pancakes even when their world is falling apart around them. Ethan's phone rang. Claire. "Turn on the news." He did. Every channel was running the same story. Novatech scandal, chemical weapons, murder, Richard Hale arrested, Claire Morgan called a hero for exposing it all. And there, at the bottom of the screen, a scrolling news ticker. DARPA suspends all contracts with Novatech pending investigation. 3 military officials placed on administrative leave. Congressional hearings announced. "It's working," Claire said. "People are paying attention. They're asking questions. This is bigger than we thought it would be." "Good. Let it get bigger." "Ethan, are you sure about this? Once we go public with everything we know, there's no taking it back." "I'm sure. Sarah didn't get to be sure. She just did what was right and paid for it with her life. The least I can do is finish what she started." "Then let's do it together." Ethan looked at Lily, eating her bare pancakes, oblivious to the storm coming. He'd spent 7 years trying to keep her safe by staying invisible. Time to try a different approach. Time to be so visible, so loud, so undeniable, that making them disappear became impossible. Time to be the father Lily deserved, the husband Sarah had believed he could be. Time to stop hiding. "Yeah," he said into the phone. "Together." And somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. The storm was coming, but this time, Ethan Cole was ready for it. 3 weeks later, Ethan sat in a congressional hearing room in Washington, D.C., wearing a suit Claire had bought him because he didn't own one. Lily was back in Seattle with Mrs. Chen and a security detail that cost more than Ethan used to make in a year. Safe. Protected. Alive. The room was packed. Senators, reporters, defense industry executives sweating under television lights. And at the center of it all, documents spread across tables like evidence of every crime ever committed in the name of national security. Senator Patricia Walsh, head of the Armed Services Committee, looked at Ethan over her reading glasses. "Mr. Cole, you've testified that your wife, Army medic Sarah Cole, discovered evidence of illegal weapons testing 7 years ago. Can you elaborate on what she found?" She noticed medical supplies disappearing from the field hospital where she worked. Morphine, surgical anesthetics, compounds that should have been logged and accounted for, but weren't. When she asked about it, her commanding officer told her it was administrative error. But Sarah kept digging. She found invoices for equipment that never arrived, payments to vendors that didn't exist. She realized someone was using military medical supply chains to move experimental compounds. And when she reported this, she filed a formal complaint with her CO 2 days before she died. The complaint disappeared. Her CO was transferred with a promotion, and Sarah was killed in a mortar attack that intelligence reports show we knew about 6 hours before it happened, but did nothing to prevent. The room erupted. Senators demanding answers. Military representatives trying to explain. Claire, sitting beside Ethan, squeezed his hand under the table. Senator Walsh banged her gavel. "Order. We will have order." She turned to a brigadier general sitting 3 seats down from Ethan. "General Morrison, you were the theater commander when Specialist Cole died. Why wasn't that field hospital evacuated?" General Morrison looked like he'd aged 20 years in the past 3 weeks. "I was told the intelligence was unreliable, that acting on it would compromise sources and methods." "Told by whom?" "I don't recall the specific individual." "You don't recall who ordered you to leave a field hospital in the path of enemy fire?" "It was 7 years ago, Senator. Personnel rotations, chain of command issues." "General, we have emails." Senator Walsh held up a folder. "Emails between you and a DARPA liaison named Dr. Marcus Reeves, discussing the importance of maintaining operational security around medical supply movements. We have financial records showing payments to your personal account from offshore sources connected to shell companies that funded Project Nightingale. We have testimony from 3 other officers who say you specifically ordered them to delay evacuating that hospital." Morrison said nothing. His lawyer leaned in, whispered urgently. Morrison's face went gray. "I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination." Senator Walsh nodded like she'd expected exactly that answer. "Let the record show that General Morrison has refused to answer on grounds of self-incrimination. We'll be referring his case to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution." She turned to Ethan. "Mr. Cole, I want to say on behalf of this committee and this country that we are deeply sorry for what happened to your wife. She was a hero who died trying to expose corruption, and we failed her. We will not fail her memory." Ethan's throat was too tight to speak. He just nodded. The hearing continued for 6 more hours. More testimony, more documents, more officials taking the fifth, or claiming they couldn't recall, or blaming unnamed subordinates. By the end of it, 17 people had been referred for criminal prosecution. Project Nightingale was officially terminated, and Novatech's defense contracts were suspended indefinitely, pending a complete audit. When they finally adjourned, Ethan walked out of the Capitol building into gray DC afternoon and just breathed. Claire was beside him, also looking exhausted. "You did it," she said quietly. "You got justice for Sarah." "Did I? Morrison's going to get a plea deal. The DARPA officials will claim they didn't know what was really happening. Richard will probably die in prison, but the people above him will walk away with pensions and book deals." "Maybe. But the program's dead. The research is shut down. The victims are finally being acknowledged." Claire pulled out her phone, showed him a news headline. "And look at this." The headline read, "President orders investigation into all defense medical research programs. Promises accountability for illegal weapons development." "It's not perfect justice," Claire said, "but it's something. It's more than we had 3 weeks ago." She was right. Ethan knew she was right. But knowing didn't make the anger disappear, didn't make the grief any lighter. His phone rang. Tom Rodriguez. "Turn on the news, Channel 7. Ethan found a TV in a cafe across from the Capitol. Every screen was showing the same footage. FBI agents raiding a facility in Virginia. People in handcuffs being let out. And the news anchor explaining that this was another site connected to Project Nightingale, that evidence suggested the research had continued even after the official program was shut down. "We got an anonymous tip," Tom said through the phone. "Documents showing the program went underground. Different name, different funding source, but same people, same research." Who sent the tip? No idea. But whoever they are, they just handed us everything we needed to take down the rest of the network. Ethan thought about the voice on the phone 3 weeks ago. The one that had promised the program would continue. The one that had threatened Lily. Maybe someone inside that conspiracy had a conscience. Or maybe they were afraid of being the next person exposed. Either way, the dominoes were falling. How many arrests? Ethan asked. 8 so far, including 2 senators and the former head of DARPA. Tom sounded almost happy. This is bigger than we thought. It goes back 20 years. Multiple programs, multiple companies, all hiding weapons research inside medical contracts. And Lily, is she safe? Security detail hasn't reported any threats in 2 weeks. Looks like whoever was watching you has backed off. Probably because continuing the program is more trouble than it's worth now that everyone's paying attention. Ethan wanted to believe that. Wanted to think they could go back to normal life. But he knew better. The powerful didn't give up just because they got caught. They adapted, evolved, found new ways to do the same terrible things. But today wasn't about worrying about tomorrow. Today was about taking the win they'd fought for. Thanks, Tom. Keep me updated. He hung up. Claire was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. What are you thinking? She asked. That I want to go home, that I want to see Lily, that I'm tired of Washington and hearings and fighting. Then let's go home. They flew back to Seattle that night. First-class tickets because Claire insisted and Ethan was too exhausted to argue. He slept on the plane, the first real sleep he'd had in weeks, and dreamed about Sarah. Not the nightmares he usually had, just memories. Her laugh, her hands, the way she'd looked at him the day Lily was born, like they'd created something magic together. In the dream, she wasn't disappointed in him for taking so long to find the truth. She was proud. She was grateful. She told him it was okay to let go now, that he'd done what needed doing, that Lily needed him present, not haunted. He woke up as the plane landed, Claire sleeping beside him, and felt something shift inside. Not healing, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. The first crack of light through years of darkness. They landed at midnight, drove straight to Ethan's apartment building where Lily was waiting, still awake even though Mrs. Chen had tried to put her to bed hours ago. Daddy! She launched herself into his arms. I saw you on TV. You were talking to important people. I was. Did you understand what I was talking about? Mrs. Chen said you were telling the truth about bad people who did bad things. She said you were brave like Mommy. Ethan felt tears burning again. Yeah, something like that. Are the bad people going to jail now? Some of them. The important ones. Good. Lily yawned. Can we go home now? Our real home. Ethan looked at his apartment, the place he'd lived for 7 years, where he'd raised Lily alone, where he'd tried to stay invisible and safe. Actually, I was thinking we could find a new home, somewhere better, with a yard maybe, and a room where you could do art projects. Lily's eyes went wide. Really? Really? I got a new job, better pay. We can afford something nicer. Will Mrs. Chen come too? If she wants, we'll find a place close enough that you can still visit her. Lily hugged him tighter. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, Lily Bug. Claire was standing in the doorway smiling. I should go. Let you two get some rest. Wait. Ethan set Lily down. Thank you. For everything. For believing me. For fighting with me. For not letting me give up. Thank you for saving my company. For showing me what real leadership looks like. She handed him a folder. Your employment contract. Head of security for Novatech. Salary, benefits, everything we discussed. Plus something extra. Ethan opened the folder, saw the numbers, and felt his stomach drop. Claire, this is too much. It's exactly right. And there's more. Novatech is establishing the Sarah Cole Memorial Foundation. It'll provide support for families of soldiers killed in suspicious circumstances. Help them investigate. Help them find justice. I want you to run it. I don't know how to run a foundation. You'll learn, and you'll have help. We're hiring investigators, lawyers, advocates, people who believe what you believe. That truth matters, that justice matters, that no one should have to fight alone the way you did. Ethan looked at the folder, at the numbers that would change his life, at the foundation that would honor Sarah's memory, at the chance to help other families find the answers he'd spent 7 years searching for. Okay, he said. Okay, I'll do it. Claire smiled. Good, because we start Monday. Novatech has a lot of rebuilding to do, and we're going to need your help to do it right. She left. Ethan carried Lily to bed, tucked her in, read her a story about a brave little girl who saved a kingdom. When she fell asleep, he sat beside her bed and pulled out his phone. There was an email from Senator Walsh. Subject line, additional information. He opened it. Inside was a declassified military report from 2018. Sarah's death. The official version he'd been given 7 years ago said enemy mortar fire. Random attack. Tragic but unavoidable. This report told a different story. It detailed intelligence received 6 hours before the attack. Detailed the decision to delay evacuation. Detailed orders from General Morrison to maintain operational security. And at the bottom, a note from the intelligence analyst who'd tried to warn them. Requested immediate evacuation of medical facilities in Grid Sector Bravo 4. Request denied by Theater Command. Reason given: ongoing classified operation requires maintaining current positions. I believe this decision will result in unnecessary casualties. This is my formal objection to the order. The analyst's name was redacted, but the date and timestamp was there. Proof that Sarah's death wasn't random, wasn't unavoidable, was murder disguised as war. Ethan forwarded the report to Tom Rodriguez. Then to every journalist who'd covered the story. Then to the Department of Justice. Then he opened a new document on his phone and started writing. Not a report. Not testimony. Just words. Dear Sarah, I'm sorry it took me 7 years to understand what happened to you. I'm sorry I believed the lies. I'm sorry I didn't fight harder sooner. But I'm fighting now. For you. For Lily. For everyone they hurt. And I promise I won't stop until every person responsible faces justice. Until every family gets the truth they deserve. Until your death means something. I love you. I always will. But I think maybe it's time to let you rest. Time to focus on raising our daughter the way you would have wanted. With courage. With honesty. With love. Thank you for showing me what that looks like. Thank you for being brave when I couldn't be. Thank you for Lily. I'll take care of her. I promise. Ethan. He didn't send it anywhere. Just saved it. Maybe someday he'd read it to Lily. Maybe someday she'd understand that her mother was a hero who died fighting corruption. That her father spent 7 years finding the truth. That both of them loved her more than anything. But tonight he just sat in the quiet apartment and let himself grieve. Really grieve. Not the angry, desperate grief he'd carried for 7 years. Just sadness for what was lost. Gratitude for what remained. The next morning Ethan woke to sunlight and Lily making pancakes. She'd used every dish in the kitchen and gotten batter on the ceiling, but she was so proud of herself that he couldn't even be mad. I made breakfast like you make for me. They were terrible pancakes, burned on one side, raw in the middle. But they were the best thing Ethan had ever eaten because Lily made them with love. His phone rang. Claire. Turn on the news. He did. More arrests. More facilities raided. More evidence of programs that shouldn't have existed. And a statement from the president herself promising complete transparency and accountability. This is real, Claire said. We actually did it. We exposed them. We shut them down. For now, Ethan said. They'll try again. Under different names, in different places. Maybe. But now people are watching. Now they know what to look for. And we'll be watching too. Claire paused. I got a call from DARPA this morning. They want to offer Novatech new contracts. Medical research only. Complete transparency. Independent oversight. Are you going to take them? I don't know. What do you think? I think we should, but with conditions. Every contract gets reviewed by the Sarah Cole Memorial Foundation. Every project gets civilian oversight. Any sign of weapons research, we blow the whistle immediately. That'll make us unpopular with a lot of people. Good. Let them be unpopular. We're done playing games with people's lives. Claire laughed. You know, 3 weeks ago you were a maintenance worker making $12 an hour. Now you're giving me business advice. 3 weeks ago I was trying to be invisible. Now I'm done hiding. Good. Because I need you visible. We're holding a press conference Monday, announcing Novatech's new direction, new leadership structure, new ethics policies. And we're announcing the Sarah Cole Memorial Foundation. I want you there. I want you to tell Sarah's story. I want people to understand what we're fighting for. Ethan looked at Lily, still proudly holding her terrible pancakes. Thought about standing in front of cameras, being visible, being known. Okay, he said. I'll be there. Monday came faster than he expected. Suddenly, he was standing in Novatech's main lobby in a suit that actually fit, surrounded by cameras and reporters, while Claire announced the company's transformation. Novatech was built on innovation, but somewhere along the way we lost sight of why innovation matters. We became focused on profit instead of people, on secrecy instead of transparency, on power instead of purpose. Claire's voice was steady. That ends today. Today, Novatech commits to complete transparency in all our research, complete accountability in all our contracts, and complete dedication to the principle that medical technology should save lives, not take them. She gestured to Ethan. This man risked everything to expose corruption inside our company. He lost his wife to that corruption 7 years ago, and instead of accepting comfortable lies, he fought for uncomfortable truth. That's the kind of courage we need to rebuild Novatech. That's the kind of integrity we're committing to going forward. Ethan stepped forward. Dozens of cameras focused on him. Millions of people watching. No more invisibility. No more hiding. My wife Sarah died believing she could make a difference, believing that truth mattered, that justice mattered, that one person standing up could change things. His voice stayed steady even though his hands were shaking. She was right. One person can make a difference, but it's better when we stand together, when we refuse to stay silent, when we fight for what's right, even when fighting costs us everything. He pulled out a photo of Sarah, held it up so the cameras could see. This is who we're fighting for. All the people who tried to do the right thing and were silenced. All the families who never got answers. All the victims of systems that value secrecy over human lives. He lowered the photo. The Sarah Cole Memorial Foundation exists to make sure no one has to fight alone. To make sure every family gets the truth. To make sure people like my wife are remembered as heroes instead of forgotten as casualties. The reporters erupted with questions. Ethan answered what he could, deflected what he couldn't, and when it was finally over, when the cameras stopped rolling and the reporters dispersed, he felt lighter somehow. Like sharing Sarah's story had released some of the weight he'd been carrying. Tom Rodriguez found him after. You did good up there. Thanks. Any updates on the investigations? 12 more arrests this morning, including the DARPA liaison who ordered your wife's commanding officer to delay the evacuation. He's looking at federal conspiracy charges. Tom handed him a folder. And this just came through. Full declassification of the intelligence report from the day Sarah died. It's going to be released to the public tomorrow. Ethan took the folder. Inside was everything. Every detail. Every decision. Every person who'd known about the attack and let it happen anyway. This is enough to prosecute. It's enough to bury them. Morrison's already trying to cut a deal. The DARPA liaison is pointing fingers at his superiors. Everyone's trying to save themselves by selling out everyone else. Tom smiled. It's beautiful chaos. What about the larger conspiracy? The voice on the phone who said the program would continue. We're still tracking that, but here's the thing. Every person we arrest gives us more evidence, more connections, more pieces of the puzzle. Eventually, we'll find everyone involved. It's just a matter of time." Ethan nodded. Time. He had plenty of that now. A new job, a new purpose, a daughter who needed him present, not drowning in the past. That night he took Lily to see potential new apartments. She ran through empty rooms picking which one would be hers, talking about putting stars on the ceiling, and maybe getting a fish tank. She was 7 years old, and her mother was dead, and her father had just upended their entire lives, but she was still excited about fish tanks. Kids were resilient, stronger than adults gave them credit for. They found a place in a better neighborhood. 2 bedrooms, a small yard, close enough to Mrs. Chen that she could visit daily. Expensive, but Ethan's new salary made it manageable. He signed the lease that day. "We're really moving," Lily asked. "We're really moving. To a better place, to a better life." She thought about that. "Is it okay if I'm happy, even though Mommy isn't here?" Ethan knelt down to her level. "Baby Mommy would want you to be happy. That's what she fought for. That's what she died protecting. Your right to grow up safe and happy and free." Did the bad people hurt Mommy because she was brave? Yeah. She was brave and they were scared. Scared people do terrible things. "Are you scared, Daddy?" "Sometimes, but not as much as I used to be." "Because you were brave like Mommy." "Because I had to be, for you." Lily hugged him. "I'm glad you're my daddy. I'm glad you're my daughter." They moved into the new apartment 2 weeks later. Mrs. Chen helped them pack. Tom Rodriguez helped them move furniture. Claire showed up with a housewarming gift, a painting for Lily's room showing a woman with dark hair and kind eyes who looked a lot like Sarah. "I commissioned it from a local artist," Claire explained. "Thought Lily should have something beautiful to remember her mother by." Lily loved it. Insisted they hang it immediately above her bed so she could see it every morning when she woke up. That night after Lily fell asleep, Ethan sat on his new apartment's small balcony and watched the city lights. His phone buzzed. Message from an unknown number. He almost didn't open it, almost blocked it immediately. But something made him look. The message was short. "You won. We lost. The program is dead. We won't bother you or your daughter again. This is over." No signature. No way to verify who sent it. But Ethan believed it. The arrests were piling up. The exposure was too complete. Continuing Project Nightingale in any form was impossible now. They'd won. Not perfectly. Not completely. Richard Hale was still alive even if he'd never see freedom again. Some conspirators would escape justice. Some families would never get answers. But Sarah's death meant something now. Her sacrifice had exposed corruption that might have continued for decades. And other soldiers would be safer because she'd been brave enough to ask questions. Ethan looked at the city lights and felt something he hadn't felt in 7 years. Peace. Not happiness, not yet. But peace. The war was over. Justice had been served. And he could finally focus on living instead of just surviving. His phone rang. "Claire. Did you see they just arrested 2 more senators? This is bigger than any of us realized." "I saw. It's good. It's all good." "Are you okay? You sound different." "I am different. I'm done fighting. Done looking over my shoulder. Done letting the past control the present." He looked through the window at Lily's room at the painting of Sarah watching over their daughter. "I'm ready to move forward." "That's good, Ethan. That's really good." Claire paused. "The foundation opens next month. We've already got 40 families reaching out for help. People who lost loved ones in suspicious circumstances and never got answers. People like you. We'll help them, all of them. I know we will, because we've got you leading it, because we've got people who care, because Sarah's legacy is going to save lives for years to come." After they hung up, Ethan went to Lily's room, stood in the doorway watching her sleep. She'd kicked off her blankets like she always did. Her stuffed rabbit was on the floor. The painting of Sarah hung on the wall above her, a mother watching over her daughter even in death. "I kept my promise," Ethan whispered to the painting. "I found the truth. I got justice. And I'm going to take care of her, the way you would have, the way we both would have together." The painting didn't answer, but Ethan felt something anyway. Not Sarah's ghost, just memory. Love that death hadn't erased. A connection that would always exist between them, even though she was gone. He tucked Lily back in, kissed her forehead, and went to his own bed for the first time without nightmares waiting. Months passed. The trials continued. More arrests, more exposure. The Sarah Cole Memorial Foundation helped 60 families in its first 3 months. 3 of those families found evidence of murders disguised as accidents. 2 got their cases reopened. 1 got justice. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. It was light pushing back against darkness. It was truth replacing lies. It was everything Sarah had fought for. Ethan threw himself into the work, running the foundation, helping families, speaking at conferences about corruption and accountability. He became someone people recognized, someone who represented courage and integrity, someone who'd stood up when standing up was dangerous. He never got comfortable with the attention, never stopped being the guy who used to fix elevators, but he learned to use his visibility to help others, to shine light on injustice, to make sure no one else had to fight alone the way he had. Lily thrived. New school, new friends, art classes where she painted pictures of her mother as a superhero. She was happy, safe, growing up in a world slightly better than the one her mother had died in. And on the 1-year anniversary of the night Ethan saved Claire from Richard's kidnapping attempt, they stood together at a memorial service for all the victims of Project Nightingale. Families, soldiers, whistleblowers, people who'd died trying to do the right thing. Sarah's name was there, carved in stone, recognized finally as a hero instead of a casualty. Ethan stood with Lily in front of the memorial, Claire beside them, Tom behind them, an entire community of people who'd fought for justice standing together. "Is Mommy proud of us?" Lily asked quietly. "Yeah, baby. I think she is. Do you still miss her?" "Every day. But it hurts less now. Because we did what she wanted. We made things better." "Yeah, because of that." Lily touched her mother's name carved in stone. "I'm going to keep making things better. When I grow up. Like you and Mommy did." Ethan felt his heart crack and heal at the same time. "I know you will." They stood there for a long time, father and daughter, survivors, living proof that courage could change the world, that one person refusing to stay silent could topple empires, that justice, though slow, was possible. The sun set over Seattle. The memorial glowed in golden light, and somewhere beyond the city, beyond the darkness, Ethan felt Sarah smiling. Proud, grateful, at rest. He'd kept his promise. He'd found the truth. He'd gotten justice. He'd protected their daughter. And now, finally, he could let her go. Could honor her memory by living instead of just surviving. Could be the father Lily deserved. The man Sarah had believed he could be. The war was over, the battle was won, and broken things could shine again. Ethan picked up Lily, held her close, and walked toward tomorrow without looking back at yesterday. Because that's what heroes did. They fought, they won, and then they lived. And that was enough.